Hello my friend, and welcome to my channel Faisal Azib. Before to start, don't forget to subscribe to my channel Faisal Azib and to click in the bells to receive all the new video related to this course or other video. So in this video, we'll talk about, as I said, two main concepts. It is variable and values. Before this, let's start by getting right of some of the code that we have here. And let's delete this one so that we don't get that annoying pop-up all the time. Okay, like this. So in this video or in this section, generally, I will be using persons as example. So for example, person's name, age, and job, etc., etc. Okay? But anyway, let's talk about value now. So a value is basically a piece of data. So it's the most fundamental unit of information that we have in programming. For example, this text Faisal is a value. Okay? So this here is value. And again, if you want to actually see this in the console, let's say console.log, and I will put this value here in the log. Okay? So now, when I reload the page, I see here Faisal. Good. And so Faisal here is the value, or we can of course have different value. For example, here I can do another one, console.log 39, for example, 39. Okay, now I just save and we got it here. And the same is true. So in this line of code, for example, where the value are actually 10 and 15 and 23 and 16, so all of these four are different values. And then this mathematical operator has joined them together to form just one value. And that value is then 18. Okay? And so value is basically the smallest unit of information that we have in JavaScript. Now, one extremely useful thing that we can do with values is to store them into variables. And so, this way we can use them over and over again. For example, we can say let and then, let and then here, your name equal sale. Okay? And so that we did here is called declaration of variable. And so this will actually create a real variable in your computer's memory, and we will store this value inside of that variable. I mean site. And actually, that is exactly what we did up here, right in the beginning. This one. So here we declared a variable called first name and assigned the value of Faisal. Okay? And so now it's hopefully makes sense to you what we did back then. So I like to imagine a variable like being a box. So in the real world, a box can hold some object, for example, a book, and we can then write a label on the box to describe what is in it. And then we can find the object later when we need it by using that label. And variables actually work in the exact same way. Same thing. So here basically we have a box called your name, and into that box we put the value of Said. And now if you want to use this value, all we have to do is to basically use this label, or in other words, this variable name. Here it is your name. And so let's use it actually. And for that, once again, I will use console.log. Console.log, open parenthesis, close them. And you will see me using console.log through this entire course actually. So whenever we need to output something from our code to the browser, we always use console.log like this. And so here now, instead of passing a literal value like we did here and here, now we can pass in. So we can write here the variable name. So your name. Or you can use first name for this one if you want. Okay? And if I reload now, as you can see, I have Said in the console. Good. And it is in the line 8 here. You see, shape.js line, it means line 8. Oh, so if we go to line 8, this one, it is this one, line 8. And that means that indeed our variable declaration up here worked perfectly. And if we now change this variable, the value of this variable to, for example, Mohammed, now, then we should get Mohammed, right? And let's see. Indeed, now it's Mohammed. Good. Let's put it back. For example, I just put it to Faisal like this. And of course, we can now use this variable name many times. So let's just copy and paste this console.log, for example, 3 times or 4 times as you want. Okay, 4 times like this. And so now we have it here 4 times. Do you see? And that means that whenever JavaScript sees this variable name here, it will basically replace it with the original value that we assigned to the variable. So again, this Faisal. That's Faisal, sorry. And this is extremely useful because now if I want to change the first name to something else, I only have to do it in one place. So just here. So let's change it here to Azzuddin. Like this. And now I save the file, of course. And if I reload here, I got Azzuddin 4 times. So this is one of the big advantages of variable. Without variable, I would now have to manually change the value everywhere to Azzuddin. But like this, everywhere where I reference this variable, it will automatically change to Azzuddin. So that's one of the most important things to keep in mind about a variable. Good. And now, what we know, what the variable is, let's just very quickly talk about convention and the rules for naming variables, because we shouldn't just give random names to a variable. So the first convention, the way that I name this variable here is called camel case. What it means? What does it mean, camel case? Camel case means that whenever I have multiple words in a variable name, I write the first word with lowercase and or the next word with uppercase for just first letter. Like this. So If it was just first, we would write it like this. Okay? But if we have more than one word, like for example, first name and last name. Okay? Here, as you can see, all the subsequent words are written with uppercase. Tag, this one, and this one, and this one. And this is a kind of standard in the JavaScript world. But of course, there are other ways of naming variable. For example, you could write first name with underscore like this. First name. And this is very popular in other language like Ruby or other ones. Okay? And you can use whatever you like. Must just keep in mind that is a kind of standard in JavaScript to write variable names like this. I mean, with camel case standard. So, usually, whenever you see other people's code, the variable will usually be written using a camel case notation. So that's kind of convention of how to name variables in JavaScript. But there are also some actual hard rules in JavaScript about how we can name variable. For example, we cannot write something like this. Let 10 years equal 10. So this is an illegal variable name. Okay? Because it starts with a number. As you can see, VS Code actually warms up right here. Okay, you see it in the red. And if we try to load this page here, we have this error. So that's an invalid or unexpected token here. And it is important to actually start reading this error message, right, from the beginning of the course. So we see that this is so-called syntax error, which means that we did a mistake in writing our code. So that's a mistake in the code syntax, and we can also see the line where the error occurred. So line 18 here. Okay? So that we can go ahead and fix it and notice how this error was shown in the console. Even though we didn't use console.log in this case. Okay? I haven't used it. So we don't need to use console.log for the console to show errors. All the errors that we make will always end up in the console. Don't worry about this. And also, here with this, well, error icon. Now, anyway, back to our naming convention here. So, let's remove this. So we already learned that variable names cannot start with a number, and in fact, variable names can only contain number letters, underscore, or the dollar sign. So, for example, if we try to write Faisal and where is the end? Up. What is it? Up. And Karim equal friend, for example. Okay? We would once again get a syntax error, right? You can see it. Same thing. And this time it is telling us an expected token. And again, that's because this symbol here, and here or here, is illegal in variable names. Okay? Not what I say. Always not, please. They can only contain numbers, letters, underscore, or the dollar sign. So this here, we can replace it by, for example, underscore, like this. And now it is good. So if we reload now, we don't have any errors. Okay? Another error may occur when we try to name a variable using a reserved JavaScript keyword. For example, if we did this, so let new equal 10, then this would also not be allowed. So when I load the page again, as you can see, I have this unexpected token new. And that's because new is a reserved keyword in JavaScript, as we will see a little bit later. And the same goes for something like function. Okay, the same thing. So again, unexpected token here. If you want to fix that, we could, for example, start this variable with variable name with an underscore or a dollar sign. The same thing. Okay, now it is allowed. So that's the only two symbols that are allowed beside letters and numbers. Dollar sign and underscore. Another variable name that's kind of reserved, but still actually allowed to use. What is this variable name or this keyword, reserved keyword? It is name. So let name equal Faisal. Okay? And it would actually work. But in some case, this creates some problems. So we can reload here, and you see it worked, no problem. Why it can cause some problems? Because again, this is a kind of a reserved keyword, but it is still legal to use. But since it is a keyword, never call your variable just name, please. Okay? Never. That's why I will always call them first name, for example, or last name. Okay? So let's actually remove this because we have it before. Now, another convention is that we should not start a variable name with an uppercase letter. So we should not do this. Let person equal Faisal. Okay? Now again, it is a convention. As you can see, it is not an error. So when I reload, I have not an error. So I repeat, it is a convention. So that's not illegal. It is just that we use this kind of variable name with an uppercase letter for a specific use case in JavaScript, which is object-oriented programming, as we will see later in this course, inshallah. So for now, never do this, but instead you should write it like this. So change the first letter uppercase to lowercase, and now it is correct. Okay? On the same note, variables that are in uppercase are reserved for constant that we know will never change. All the name of variable or the letter are in uppercase. For example, the number pi, let pi, which is, I think, if I remember, I am not in math, so 3.14 and 15 and so on and so forth. Okay, so we know that this number is never gonna change, and so that's a constant. And for that, we have a convention of writing it in all uppercase. And VS Code can, I repeat, can marks this variable name with a different color, because it knows about this convention that we use. For me, it doesn't do it. No problem. Of course, you could also write this variable like this. So let pi equal like this. Okay? But then this would be kind of weird actually. So if it is real constant, we never change, write it in uppercase like this. Okay? I move this one. So that's pretty normal convention there in programming as a whole. Finally, to finish this video, let's talk about one final convention, which is to make sure that our variable names are descriptive. And that's very important, brothers and sisters, to write cleaner code. It's very, very important. So, when you name your variables, it should be really easy to understand exactly what value the variable is holding, just by reading the name of the variable. And that's kind of what we did up here, by calling this one first name. Okay, or your name here. But let me show you another example. For example, let's say that my first job is programmer. Okay, and here let my current or my same thing, current job call teacher. Okay, so this is much better than writing like this. Let job 1 equal programmer and let job 2 equal teacher. So, which set of variable do you think is more descriptive? Is there this one or this one? And I hope that you agree with me that it is much easier to understand what programmer and teacher are in this case. Okay? By simply looking at the variable name. So we know that my first job was a programmer and that my current job is teacher. While down here, you will simply know that these are two different jobs. We don't know anything about them. And so this approach up here is a lot better. Okay? So, keep that in mind. Whenever you write your own variable names, and actually keep all of this in mind, that we just talked about for naming your variables. Okay? So, just to quickly recap what variable actually is, it is basically a box into which we can store a value. So we give that box a name, which in this case here is a first name, or in this case here, it is my first job. And then into that box, with that labels, we can store a value which in this case is programmer. Then later into code, we can reference that variable over and over again, for example, like this. So I remove this one. So console.log my first job. Okay, now if I have saved the file, then of course when I reload the page, I got programmer here. Once again, you probably say, so my code changing here from single quote to double quote. You see it or no? So I will do it again to see it. Maybe you don't see it. So I write like this and see, look again. it will change the ID to double quote. But that is just my automatic formatting doing its work. Okay, it is automatically. And now if you want to change this here, let's say, for example, developer, this will change across, of course, the entire program. Okay, and now we get developer here. And that's what variables are all about. So they are one of the most important things of programming in all different programming languages. And so make sure to really understand them before you move to the next video. So please, if you don't understand what is variable, how to write them, please watch again this video before to jump to the new one, because we'll use them all in the course, inshallah. All time. Okay, we can't escape this. So see you in this video, inshallah, brothers and sisters. Always practice, and maybe in the next video I will give you a challenge. Maybe I will see, I don't know. So maybe in the next or after 2 videos to make it. So take care of us. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel Faisal Azib, and to follow me on Instagram teams.winners and faisal.checo. I tell you goodbye. Wassalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.